Alright, what's up guys? My name is Zach, and today I am driving a 2004 Buick Park Avenue Ultra. Up front is a 3.8 liter supercharged V6, and down below is a 4-speed automatic transmission. Now I am super excited to be driving this year 04 Buick Park Avenue Ultra for a couple of reasons. First of all, I love GM front-wheel drives. 2022 has been dominated by GM front-wheel drives here on my channel. They've been some of my favorite cars to do, so I'm excited to be back in another one. But the second reason is the fact that this is the Ultra, so not only does it get all the bells and whistles, but it gets that supercharged V6 under the hood, which I'm excited to talk about. But before we get on to anything else, I have a website, ZachPradle.com, where you can buy stickers and other merchandise when it becomes available. You could also submit your own vehicle to be reviewed by me through a quick and easy submission form, and you get a video of your car just like this one. And you could read my behind the scenes blog to see what I'm filming before it comes out on the channel. But let's get back to that 3800 series V6 under the hood. Well, with the supercharger, it makes about 240 horsepower, which isn't anything mind-boggling, but the 3800 engine is really, truly something special. It is one of, if not the best engine that GM has ever produced. And there's a couple reasons for that. First of all, and personally, I think the biggest reason is all of the R&D that went into this engine. The roots of this engine can be traced all the way back to 1961, with the core design from Buick, the architecture of the engine that they kept evolving up through 2008. On August 22nd, 2008 was the last time they produced the 3800. And so through that time, they kept making it better and better and better. This engine was bumped up to 3.8 liters in 1988, and then officially named the 3800 series in 1992, of which Buick used it, like I said, all the way up till 2008 in a lot of their vehicles. These engines are incredibly reliable, with this particular car having over 307,000 miles on it. They're easy to work on. There's plenty of space around the engine. Now, of course, the supercharger does add some complexity to it, but not by much. And when things do break, it's not very expensive to fix. And I really, really love that about the Park Avenue and the 3800 series engine in general. Now, only the Ultra got this particular supercharged engine. There were other GM products, but in terms of the Park Avenue, you had to go up to the Ultra to get the supercharger. Now, like I said, paired to it is a 4-speed automatic transmission. All Park Avenues had 4-speed automatics. However, the supercharged version, like this, gets the HD transmission, a little bit heavier duty transmission. So if you're looking for a junkyard trans, just something to know. Last but not least, something I always forget about is the fact that the Park Avenue is front-wheel drive. So that's stuff out of the way, let's talk about the interior. We do have some goodies in here that I'd like to share. Well, in front of me, I have some very plain and simple gauges. Off to the left is the coolant temperature and tachometer. Off to the right is the speedometer and fuel, and then I get a digital readout down below for my odometer, trip odometer, and what gear I am in. Up above the gauge cluster, I do have a heads-up display. So to change it, I do have buttons up by the rear view mirror, but I do get a heads-up display, another nice perk of the Ultra trim level that I really, really like. On the steering wheel, on the left, I have my Seek, Scan, AM, and FM. But off to the right, I have temperature. I love having temperature controls on the steering wheel, so important. But the other cooler thing is that I have the volume on the steering wheel. And when I actually push the volume up and down, the actual volume knob, the physical knob, also goes up and down. That is such a cool little feature of Buick's and something you don't really see much of anymore. Such a cool little quirk. Off to the left, I do have a bunch of buttons for my gauges, like gauge info, fuel info, all of those things. GM was always really good about giving you tons of information when you wanted it. And then I have my lights, my Twilight Sentinel, which is basically automatic headlights. GM has used this verbiage since the 80s. And then fuel door and trunk release down below. Moving on to the door itself, I have 2 different memory seat options, as well as my exit option, which will move the seat back as far as possible to make it easy to get in and out. Lock and unlock, power mirrors and power windows, as well as window locks, and the driver's window is auto. auto. Moving into the center, we do have the typical GM radio. Nothing really spectacular here. However, you could see that it has not aged super great with the plastics of the radio. But at the end of the day, after 307,000 miles, you can't really blame this thing all that much. Down below that, we do get climate controls. Now, interestingly enough, we do have dual zone, and I'll talk about how to select that in a second, but I do get this little digital screen for the climate controls. To the left and right of those climate controls, we do get our heated seat options. One for the driver, one for the passenger, and you get two different levels, high or low. And then all the way off to the right, this is actually the passenger climate control, so it's very easily accessible to the passenger. It's right in front of them. And I get this funny little badge that says Park Avenue Ultra by Buick. In case you were wondering who made the car and you couldn't read the steering wheel, front, rear, or side badging, you're reminded that it was Buick. Then I do get a little pop-out ashtray and cigarette lighter. And then I have this wide open area because I don't have a center console. It's a front-wheel drive vehicle, and this can be used as a bench seat. You get a really nice front area. Love that. But speaking of the bench seat, you can fold down the middle and you do get cup holders. So we will do a big friggin' bottle test here in the 2004 Buick Park Avenue Ultra. And unfortunately, it does not pass the big friggin' bottle test. I really didn't expect it to. You know, 2004 is a little early for big cup holders. You really start to see it in the 2010s. So I'm not surprised, but unfortunately, it fails.
After filming, I was told that this is actually a LeSaber's center console. However, it still fails, but it's not the original factory center console for the Park Avenue Ultra.
The seats. The seats are so incredibly comfortable. They really are recliners that happen to be bolted into the chassis of this car, and I love it. You will be hard-pressed to find a more comfortable automobile than a Buick Park Avenue Ultra. And along with that is this car's really, really cushy, really comfortable suspension. This car floats like a cloud, and I absolutely love that. But speaking of seats, we do have back seats, so let's go do a back seat review. All right, so we're in the back of the 2004 Buick Park Avenue Ultra, and I love it back here. I mean, how can you not love it back here? It is so comfortable, so spacious. This is my driving position. My knees are not hitting the seat in front of me. My head is not hitting the ceiling. I'm 5'11". I'm not a small guy. And I absolutely love it, but I'm getting a little too worked up. It is just such a sublime experience back here. I get ashtrays, thank God, so I can light one up on a family road trip. I can also bring this center console down. I have two cup holders here. Nothing really too crazy, but these seats will just capture your heart. And not only that, I just have so much nostalgia when it comes to Buicks. Buicks and really GMs in this era, I'll talk more about it later, but they just have this warm embrace to them. And they just remind me of being a kid, you know, and that's something that is fleeting these days. As I get older and older and older, there's fewer and fewer things I can really relate to in my childhood experience, but being back here in these comfy seats, this nice taut Buick leather, it's just all of these sensations really, really coming together to form such a nostalgic, lovely experience. However, speaking of nostalgia, I decided to bring along today the most popular game from 2004, which was the Bop It Extreme. So don't mind me, I'm just gonna relive my childhood in the back of this Buick Park Avenue Ultra.
Pull it! Flick it! Bop it! Bop it! Spin it! Flick it! Down!
Let's go hop around the back and take a look at the trunk. All right, around the back of the Buick Park Avenue Ultra, I do have a trunk popper here on the key fob, although it doesn't want to play with me today, and that's okay. So we'll come in here with the regular key, if I don't get it tangled on my equipment. And as you can see, we get a giant trunk from Buick. Absolutely love that. This used to be a cornerstone of American sedans, but now American sedans are hard to find at all. So something of days gone by has been huge trunks in American cars, and I really, really love that out of the Buick. Now we gotta talk about the looks, and I personally love this particular Buick Park Avenue Ultra because it is blue. I always picture these cars in hearing aid beige. That to me is just what they have always looked like. The first one I ever reviewed almost 8 years ago was that color. And to be fair, this interior is beige, but it's really nice to see a nice sparkly blue on a Buick. Something I feel like I don't see all that much. A lot of white, a lot of black, a lot of black Buicks. So this is definitely a very nice change in pace. The owner has done these 16-inch wheels, dressed them up a little bit. I think it's a very presentable, very handsome looking car. But now let's get on to my final thoughts. What do I think being back in the seat of a Buick Park Avenue Ultra after 8 years? When I first reviewed that first Park Avenue, I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't have any subscribers on YouTube, and I was just trying to figure out my format. So for all intents and purposes, that video should be thrown in the trash. So what do I think driving another one 8 years later with so much more perspective, almost 1,000 cars reviewed here on the channel? Well, I think this car is one of the best cars you could buy. This was really truly when American automobiles were not only luxurious, but reliable. I can't think of a single American car made today that I would own outside of the factory's warranty, especially Buick products. The 2-liter turbos and little SUVs that they're making are just all garbage in terms of reliability. Now, they're comfortable cars, they have great features, sure, but this thing is just a juggernaut. 307,000 miles of road have tried to stop this car, and yet it keeps going. It has defied odds and logic. This is really truly something special. The 3800 was such a fantastic engine, and the fact that they switched to the 3.6 liter, which is utter trash, is so sad to me. This car is comfortable, it's reliable, and like I mentioned with the back seats, it's nostalgic. It brings me comfort. I've never owned a Buick personally. Now, my grandparents had Buicks all while I was growing up, but I've never owned one. There's just something about this era of GM that brings me comfort. It's a warm hug personified into an automobile. I feel like this car cares about me. Now, I know that that is borderline lunacy and that a 1.5-ton automobile does not have feelings, but driving it, you get that sense. And that's something that I don't get from modern American cars. That's something I don't get from most cars at all. When I sit in the Buick Park Avenue Ultra, life is okay. Yeah, I got bills to pay. I have my ups and downs, sure. But the Park Avenue Ultra smooths out those bumps. Cut to the in-car. This is a speed bump. Just kind of rolls over it. Just kind of rolls over it like water off a duck's back. I love this thing. And I love these cars. They're just great. Huge thank you to David for meeting me halfway for this review. I really appreciate him spending the time, taking the time out of his day to come down to have me film it. I really appreciate that. David has been absolutely awesome to work with, and I'm so glad we were able to make this video happen. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Don't forget to rate the video, comment on the video, and subscribe if you really liked it. Take care, guys.